want to have anything to do with any one of y'all, knowing that they're going to say, well, we didn't want to have nothing to do with you either. Because, see, I know that because I remember when I wanted to be a part of that, the attitudes of everyone, and the hypocrisy, let me know that you guys, I knew then that you guys weren't serious about really helping self. What you wanted to do was have a place to go and gather and have a good time and flaunt clothes and just don't even take it serious, because a lot of y'all smoke cigarettes, and if you smoking cigarettes, you're not serious about health. And if you're not serious about health, you're probably not serious about developing a spiritual body, because good health starts with a good spiritual body. So the reason I said all that is because I know how bizarre it sounds to say that, but you know, Christians are the people that enslaved us. And Christians are the people that's overpricing us, locking us up in prisons and everything that's going on. And that means that all of you melanated people that go in those churches are generating more revenue for them to, oh man, you know what, I'm tired of saying that.
Now, by black people becoming aware of what racism, white supremacy is, not spending any energy hating white people, just understanding how this particular chess game is played. And so then black people will spend their energy, first of all, first and foremost, you can't play a game if you don't understand what it is. You can't go on a football course, football field with a tennis racket.
What she mean is, don't go into a church with a white God and you're a melanated person that live on the planet that has enslaved you. If you live on the planet where white people has enslaved you and proven to you that they will work you forever and not give you anything, why on God's earth would you want to run into a center where there's a whole lot of other black people like you that's being victimized the same way, and all y'all worship a picture of a white man that doesn't even be complete because he don't even have a woman. They've never had it. I mean, it's just too much. And then you can go way, way, way across town if you want to, where this same loving, generous, concerned God, his original true family, how they own church over there where they don't even want you to be. Somebody's just stupid, excuse me, somebody just is not really thinking very, very responsibly.
You can't go on a basketball court with a football. You can't play tennis with a football. You have to understand the game that is on the table. So have the, respect of self to understand. If you don't understand, to work hard to try to understand what is happening, because black people raise the question, what's happening, a million times a day. Hey, what's happening? What's going on? Now, we are raising that question. We think it's just a greeting. It's because we have been lied to about what the actual dynamic on this planet is in relationship to ourselves. We have been told it's a democracy, although imperfect. No, it is a perfect local, national, global system of racism, white supremacy. A system for white genetic survival and preventing white genetic annihilation on planet Earth. And it has certain specific behaviors that black people need to be taught, so they will be destructive towards themselves and one another, so that the system, white genetic survival, can exist. And so we have to, without spending one org of energy hating white people, but understanding what the game on the table is all about. And then begin by practicing those behaviors that Neely Fuller in his book has talked about, and we need to repeat in every conversation. This is something that black people could do. In every conversation, when they pick up the telephone, they're talking to another black person and they say, "Hi, how are you?" Remember, if you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and exactly how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. If black people would just start greeting each other like that, and then they can go on with their conversation. And so it's like we don't have any trouble teaching each other the latest dance step. We need to, figure out, well, with the same ease, how can we help all black people begin to understand racism, white supremacy, which is the point number one in self-respect. Understand what's happening to you. Understand what happened to your parents. Understand what happened to your great-grandparents. Understand what will happen to your children and your children's children if you do not bring to a screeching halt this local, national, global system of racism, white supremacy. So I said the top 10 things that Mr. Neely Fuller has prescribed, and he is the genius of the 21st century, bar none, because he is the person who first said that racism, white supremacy is a total system structure. That was genius. That was far more important than what Einstein said, E equals MC squared. Because Neely Fuller was talking about the behavior of all the people on planet Earth and what the pattern of that behavior was. And I came along and said why it needed to happen on this particular planet. So Neely Fuller is a genius, but I added to his list, stop using and selling drugs to one another. Stop making black children think that as children they can be adequate mothers and fathers. Black people need to solidify in their thinking. Just because you can bring genitals of the male and female together doesn't mean that you are ready and able to develop a child under the conditions of the terrorism and war of racism, white supremacy. So I advocate as a physician and as a general psychiatrist and child psychiatrist, black people need to be 30 and 35 before they think about producing a child. And they need to be married and think of no more than 2 children no closer together than 3 years apart. And if they want to know what to do with those 30 and 35 years before marriage, go to school. Learn as much as you can. Don't start producing children as a teenager, dropping out of school and I think I'll make a baby or have a baby. And then it'll hit me, well, I need an education. Well, let me put the child down or throw the child away someplace because I want to go back to school. I say that's upside down thinking, and it leaves us in the breeding and studying pattern that we were pushed into, forced into, when we were formerly enslaved under that phase of the system of racism, white supremacy. Breeding and studying to make slaves. Now we're breeding and studying to make people for the prison industrial complex. Because children who are not given adequate care, emotional attention, will have a hard time organizing their behavior going in a functional direction. And because the racism war is against black people in general and black male persons in particular, and male children need adult father guidance. So any male who hasn't taken the time to get an education, worked out how he's going to support himself and a wife, is not ready to reproduce children. And that goes for how females think as well. In other words, it's not that we're bad, stupid people, no. We just have been miseducated under the system of racism, white supremacy, deliberately so. But a system that has been designed by certain people for their genetic survival. That same system is not going to maximally develop the people that they fear can cause their genetic annihilation. That's just logic. It's just logic. If anything, people who are fearful of other people being able to cause their genetic annihilation, genocide is what occurs to them. They can genetically annihilate me. Maybe if I genocide them, I don't have to worry. And you genocide a people by simply destroying the males and telling the females they can be married to each other. That's genocide. So these are the things that, this is Black History Month, and we ought to use this month as well as every other month, working out how can we learn how to respect ourselves, since we have been shattered. Our self-respect, our collective self-respect has been shattered by the dynamic of racism, white supremacy. And without wasting energy, hating white people, it's just like somebody wants to be a champion chess player. You can't waste your time hating the people on the horizon who might be your opponents. You have to just master the game. Master the tactics and strategies. But first you have to understand the game. So I was saying, stop black children from thinking that as children they can be adequate mothers and fathers. I should add to that, stop sexually abusing children. Stop sexually abusing children. Men who are made to feel weak and inadequate will find themselves sexually abusing children. So let's just stop it. The number of people who come into the psychiatrist's office who have been sexually abused in the hundreds of years that we were enslaved as black people, enslaved African people. We were sexually abused sun up, sun down by our slave masters. And that sexual abuse is riding like a river because although formal slavery has ended, the system of white supremacy of which the formal slavery was a part is continuous. And so we have to begin to understand that. But we can make up our minds that children are not to be sexually abused. And the number of people who come into the psychiatrist's office who have been sexually abused by a grandfather, an uncle, a stepfather, a father, and mothers standing by and being aware that it is happening, and they don't do anything. See, we can put all of this under our absence of self-respect, which has developed under the system of racism. And when we can have pumped into our brains gangster, thug, bitch, whore, nigger, it becomes easy to just